I want to talk about comedy again. Bill Burr can't shut up about the Riyadh Comedy Festival, and he keeps getting trashed in other people's videos every time he opens his mouth to complain about it. And it's that thing of the guy who's he's like a Redditor who just keeps complaining. If I can just, nice guys. Bill Burr's like a nice guy, except he's an old man. And he's like, if I can just explain to you why it is that you should see it my way, then everyone will like me again. But he wants to also say that he doesn't care what other people think and he's right and you're wrong, which is kind of his whole shtick, right? Just to be rude to people as guests on their show and tell them, yeah, you don't understand anything. And people are tired of it. And then he ruined his whole, I don't know what you call it, platform or persona or whatever, by going to the Riyadh Comedy Festival along with all the other comedians that did the same thing. The only guys who are going to come out of it clean are the guys who openly said, yeah, I did it for the money, because it's honest and people respect honesty, and, you know, or if anybody apologizes for it. Like, a lot of people apologize for a lot of things, but if it's a sincere apology, then probably will be accepted. You know, like, if Dave Chappelle said, you know what, there was so much money, I bought houses for all my kids with the, you know, money that they gave them for going to Riyadh, and I signed a contract that said I can't talk about it, and everybody's giving me shit, and you were right and I was wrong, and that's pretty much all I can say about it. You got me, I took the money, and then we could move on. But Bill Burr just can't shut up about it, and he wants you to see it his way, which is the way he's always been. So it's just drawing more attention to what I always didn't like about Bill Burr. It's just a guy who's a loudmouth that wants you to see it his way, and nobody likes that. That only works like a couple of times when you go on a talk show and he gives the host crap and points out flaws in the host of the show where you didn't like the host or the guest, and they're like, yeah, he's kind of cool, at least he said some honest things. But Bill Burr can't be honest about the Riyadh Comedy Festival, and he thinks that by making excuses and berating his audience and telling them that they're no good and they just don't understand that it will, I don't know, what is he trying to do? It's not working. But I don't have an algorithm, so I don't really know if Dave Chappelle has had a response about the Riyadh Comedy Festival beyond saying he could speak more freely in Saudi Arabia to the king and his sons and all that. But probably, it's either be honest or just keep your mouth shut and hope the whole thing blows over. I said it before, I'll say it again. Dave, he didn't take the Comedy Central 50 million or whatever it was, but he did take whatever they offered him in Saudi Arabia. I wonder what it is about American stand-up Dave Chappelle that the Saudi royals love so much. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. I did a whole video where they're just puppets for Agenda 2030. That'd be a pretty honest confession. But I'm going to put that aside because I was thinking about stand-up comedy, and not necessarily about the Riyadh stuff, but just like the history of it, on how stand-up comedy changed because of online. And a lot of people say that Joe Rogan isn't funny. He's a host and he used to have interesting guests on, but at some point I didn't like Joe Rogan's interesting guests. I liked it in the early days before we were oversaturated with comedians saying the most disgusting things about themselves. That started on the radio with Howard Stern, who isn't a comedian. He would just tell you all the things about his life because he knew that would get people to tune in. And he was always getting in trouble with the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. When people listened to the radio and watched regular TV. But now we have online, and what happened in the earlier days of the internet was people that had saved old Howard Stern stuff, because people would record his shows for years and they'd put them on huge reel-to-reel tapes, and people were obsessed with them, and they wanted to save every queef contest and all these things. So people started putting all that stuff online, and then Howard went and took it down. All the stuff that was too embarrassing for him, he'd shut it down. And then there was all the Opie and Anthony stuff. Whatever Howard Stern like stopped doing, you know, like however far Howard Stern went, Opie and Anthony and Jim Norton and Patrice O'Neill and I guess Louis C.K. and all those guys that were with Opie and Anthony show, his regular guests, they just said, well, what does Howard Stern do? Well, we'll go more disgusting. And Jim Norton tells you how he liked trans women and smelling dirty underwear P&M, and he tells you how he came to liking urine-soaked underwear in his youth when people peed on him as a child. And they would just say the most disgusting things. They'd be open about their racism. And, you know, probably a lot of that stuff's still online. But that was how radio was. So at some point it clicked with other comedians that it's funny to have comedians sit down and talk to each other. And I don't know who did this first, whether it was Joe Rogan talking to comedians or Marc Maron. I attributed it to Marc Maron. Marc Maron did Stand Up Spotlight on VH1, and he was the host of that. And the set looked not unlike this. And I think he had to dress like it was a movie theater, and he was the usher. And then they would show you stand-up comedy clips as in the 1990s on, you know, old television. People were kind of sick of stand-up comedy, and it became preachy and annoying, you know, like before cancel culture started. Guys like Janine Garofalo and Dennis Miller would get political with their stuff in a way that in time became annoying and wasn't funny, and a lot of people were inspired by Dennis Miller's style of comedy. And I think that helped lead to the hangover of stand-up in the 90s when people were like just sick of, like, it's just complaining, we're sick of stand-up. And then that void was filled by disgusting stories of Opie and Anthony and whatever Howard Stern was doing, where he's slapping women in the butt with fish, and you would listen to that on the radio. And then Howard Stern declared himself king of all media, and then the internet showed up and he said podcasting was lame, but he was like the original guy that inspired the disgusting content that was being made by podcasters, whether they were comedians or just, you know, a bunch of guys sitting on a couch doing the pod couch or whatever. But I do remember in the early days of MySpace, which is before Facebook, if I'm not mistaken, before Facebook was popular or whatever. I think MySpace was first. And Joe Rogan had a page, and I was like, I remember that guy. That was the guy on News Radio. And I found out that he was a comedian, and I saw some of Joe Rogan's stand-up clips, and I thought, wow, this guy's actually funny, and he's talking about unusual stuff. And it was more in line with the kind of things that Bill Hicks was doing, and he kind of expanded upon Bill Hicks's type of material. And even though Joe Rogan, you know, had his own thing, and he's in Terrence McKenna and all that stuff. And I've done this, I've talked about this before, where Joe Rogan went on Jim Brewer's show, and Jim Brewer had a radio show. He was on a former Saturday Night Live guy that kind of got booted. They pushed him out of there. And so then Jim Brewer had to have a job, so he went and did radio stuff, and Joe Rogan was on there, and that was the highly clipped thing on the earlier days of the internet, where Joe Rogan talks about getting high on DMT on the Jim Brewer show, and then that got put out into the world, and it had this like crappy like Bill Hicks jam session comedy stuff added to it. Again, like a rib from Bill Hicks that Joe Rogan didn't have anything to do. Other people took the Joe Rogan Jim Brewer chip clip, added shitty psychedelic music to it, and changed the sound, and talked about how cool it was to get high and that you should do that. So that kind of egged on Joe Rogan to talk about that stuff more, because people liked it and made all these videos about that Jim Brewer clip. But I remember Joe Rogan from MySpace because of he talked about this rapper called Gangsta F-, and it was a gay black rapper who did gangsta thug rap stuff, and it was all about him being gay and wiping his dick off on stuffed animals and stuff like that, and everybody thought it was funny. And then Joe Rogan, and also Joe Rogan, and it was like Eddie Bravo and his friends would be outside the comedy clubs, and they'd have early shitty phone videos where they would show them flirting with like old ladies, and I was like, why is Joe Rogan, because he looks like a little kid, and he was younger then, and he would show these videos of him and his friends like macking on old ladies, I guess outside the comedy club or the comedy store or whatever. And I was like, why does this guy have a thing for old ladies? I don't know what that's about, but that's how I remember Joe Rogan. He also had a website, because this is back when websites mattered, and it had the counter. 2012 is when the aliens are coming back, because it's the end of the Mayan calendar, and he had like a green, green dollar store alien, you know what I mean, like that generic green alien, little green man thing. And 2012, the mothership's coming back, and his club's called the Comedy Mothership now. But that's my early memories of Joe Rogan. And then I remember when podcasts became on my radar, it was WTF with Mark Maron, who was the Air America guy, which was like liberal radio. So then Mark Maron started having comedians on his show, and I think that he did that first, and then Joe Rogan did a podcast, and he had his friends on, and his friends were comedians, because he used to hang out at the Comedy Store. And I remember the early Joe Rogan podcasts were him and Red Band and Ari Shaffir, I think, sitting on a couch together, and they would just talk about whatever. And Joe Rogan was into conspiracy theories of Bigfoot and aliens and all the stuff that he never hid that he was interested in. And that was interesting to me. And when Joe Rogan stopped doing that and just having all kinds of weird guests on, I didn't care about it anymore. I'm like, I don't care what Joe thinks. This is lame. And then the bigger he got, the less interested I was in the stuff he talked about, because as Joe Rogan was outgrowing talking about Bigfoots and DMT and all that stuff, I kind of outgrew it too. So when he stopped talking about that stuff and he had things he was interested in, like bull hunting and UFC guys, I didn't care about any of that shit. So I stopped watching him, or listening to him rather, because most people probably weren't watching Joe Rogan, you're just listening. But I remember the early days when he sat on the couch. And I'm bringing all this up because I was thinking about, again, MySpace. There was a comedian called Steve Hofstetter, and he probably was a sober guy. He probably did not get high or drunk. Maybe he did. But he would travel around the country, and he was using social media. He was one of the guys helping develop what we now call parasocial relationship. And I'm not dissing him. I'm not dissing Steve Hofstetter, whether you heard of him or not. But he would travel around, and one of the things that he said that was probably true, because a comedian's lifestyle is different. Let me explain that first. They have a lot of free time because you're performing at night to drunk and high people, and just traveling around. But you have a lot of time where you do nothing because you can't go to a 9 to 5 if you're, driving back and forth across the country. It was a different time. Gas was cheaper. Stand-up comedians had to travel all over the place. And sometimes it was driving. Sometimes you'd fly and you'd hit comedy clubs, and that's how you'd make a living. And, like on weekends, basically. So you have the whole rest of the week to write material and just, jerk off or whatever it is you want to do. So Steve Hofstetter was making emails, and anybody that went to one of his shows, he said, email me and I'll talk to you and I'll let you know when I'm around. And he would send out email blasts like in the early days of internet. So anywhere he went, he was always sending emails to all the people that went to his shows that talked to him. And since this parasocial relationship stuff was new, if you went to a Steve Hofstetter show and you could interact with him. That's what I remember with Joe Rogan. I think I may have had a couple interactions with Joe Rogan through MySpace, because he would type back to people, because not everybody was, he wasn't the biggest thing in the world back then. He was the guy from News Radio who it turns out was funny. And then he had that Space Monkey show where the intro's like, California looks like a cancer on the earth, and he's into all this Terrence McKenna bullshit, and probably who's the guy that did the Illuminatus trilogy? He's probably like into all that shit. And Robert Anton Wilson. Joe was probably into that stuff. I don't remember anymore. And again, like a rib from Bill Hicks stuff, or So Steve Hofstetter would write back to as many people as possible. He probably spent a lot of his time making emails to anyone who wrote an email to him, and that's early days of parasocial relationships. Then Dane Cook came out, and one of the things I remember about Dane Cook was he had mentioned that he saw what Steve Hofstetter was doing. This is like a long time ago, you know, in the earlier, you know, whenever this was, like 2006, 8, 9, whatever. And Dane Cook, I think, took a rib from Steve Hofstetter, and he was always letting people know where he was going to be through emails, and probably spending a lot of time writing to people. I remember seeing video of Dane Cook when he was a kid, making stuff on the camera. Like, he always wanted to get somewhere, you know, and he wanted to be a comedian when he was like a teenager, which seems to go a long way. It's a story of a lot of people wanting to be comedians. Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Dave Chappelle, and Jeff Ross. Any of these guys that are famous, a lot of them wanted to do. Judd Apatow, not that he's a comedian, but a lot of people that went somewhere with comedy stuff were kind of obsessed with it young. So you're honing your skills and developing when when you're young, which probably helps you be funny. No guarantee that it is. But I remember Dane Cook mentioning Steve Hofstetter, and I told you all about Steve Hofstetter, so I can move on from it. So Dane Cook became really popular, and people said he's not funny and he sucks, except that he was, because nobody pays money to go see somebody and pay attention to everything he does just because they send out email blasts and stuff like that. Like, people thought he was funny and they laughed at him, so they were interested in what he was doing, and all the other comedians said, he's not funny though, he sucks. But he also was communicating with his audience, and was also one of those early developers of the parasocial relationship. I suppose Joe Rogan was doing the same thing, but probably ultimately in a much healthier way. So Joe Rogan did his thing, and I honestly can't remember who came first, whether it was Mark Maron talking to comedians all the time or Joe Rogan, but both of them were Comedy Store guys. They both talk about Mitzi Shore in a comedy club, and I remember I used to listen to all that stuff, but I, like everybody else, got sick of comedians talking about their degenerate stories and every little thing about how they had a fungus on their foot and put it in somebody's asshole and all. Who cares? Legion of Skanks. I hate all that shit. Go ahead, put a gun up your ass and pull the trigger for all I care. You guys doing this stuff. The Legion of Skanks doing the throwing up hand signs for their occult groups. There you go. Go watch the Crack Amico music video on Legion of Skanks, and he keeps showing you how they keep throwing up these signs. It's not good, and it's true. So where am I going with this? So Joe Rogan and his friends, he brought on guys like Joey Diaz. Is that guy even doing anything anymore? That guy was disgusting. And he would tell you his stories, his essayist stories of how he would assault women because he was a coke dealer. And he would sell disgusting things. And whether they were true or not, I don't know why you want to be represented that way. And he calls his audience cocksuckers and Gentiles, and he's a blood-drinking Santeria, like demon-possessed fat slob scumbag guy, who, I mean, telling lie stories over and over again, pretending like he's in the mafia because he's old. And if you go back into the 70s, The Godfather, I want respect and this and that, and before people were like into The Sopranos, that again is The Sopranos is standing on top of all the Francis Ford Coppola Godfather stuff. So when the Godfather stuff came out in the 70s, it was like, I want respect, I'm gonna be treated like this, and it was all, Italians would pretend like they were in the mob, and they had Rocky come out, and it was all this like Italian machismo, asshole bullshit stuff. So Joey Diaz is like a product of that. It's also by Rodney Dangerfield, who is a comedian, who actually makes jokes, had jokes written for him, and had his Rodney persona. I don't get no respect, Rodney Dangerfield. That comes from The Godfather movies in the 70s. So Rodney Dangerfield was, everybody wanted respect. Because I gotta have respect and selfishness. I think, were they the Me generation? Is that still? I'm not sure about that. But Rodney Dangerfield was, well, you get respect. He's like, I don't get no respect, and then that became his thing, his whole life, and that's all Godfather stuff. So why do I say all this? Because Joey Diaz, is disgusting. Is he at the Joe Rogan? Does he hang out with Joe Rogan anymore? He's just keeping his mouth shut because he told about all how disgusting crimes and assaults that he did and everything, and he was a drug dealer and he went to jail for kidnapping somebody. Do people forget about that? So that's one of Joe Rogan's friends. So should he not be friends with the guy because of his past? No. Your friends are who your friends are. You could, but Joe Rogan opened up his comedy club, and I don't have an algorithm, but I know what channels I seek out that I remember. I have like old man, because I have a list of channels I like written on paper. And so Joe Rogan opened a comedy club, and people are like, I hate the Austin comedy scene. Okay, well, there's the New York comedy scene, there's the California comedy scene, there's, the Chicago comedy scene, and, Joe Rogan just made his own playhouse where he can do what he wants, and people like it, and they're willing to get their picture taken just to go into his comedy club with, where you'll be beaten up and physically abused if you heckle the comedians. No heckling. Just shut up and watch comedy, and don't cough or say anything during a punchline, or you're probably going to get thrown out. And UFC and kettlebells and all this stuff. Look, he used his money and a lot of people liking Joe Rogan to make his place with his rules, and it's lame and stupid with the aliens and all that stuff. It's stupid, but it doesn't matter. People like it. So people that want to go there can go there, because he didn't want to be in California and he didn't want to deal with all that. So he made his own place to play. So that's his business. I don't like it. I don't want to go there. I'm not going to get my picture taken to see a bunch of comedians that I don't think are funny. But just because Joe Rogan and his friends, that Cat Williams said Joe Rogan and his friends aren't funny. Yeah, but somebody's laughing at those guys, and probably they're getting sick of it too. What lasts forever? You do a novel thing, it's funny for a while, and then people figure out the mechanics of it, which is really quick nowadays because everyone's analyzing each other through social media platforms. So whatever your flaws are, there's like hundreds if not thousands of people pointing out those flaws. And nobody stays on top forever, right? There's an ebb and flow of things. There's peaks and valleys. Did you ever hear about Maslow's peak experience? And at some point there's a point where there's peaks and valleys, and at some point there's a plateau, and then there's no more plateaus, and then you level off, or you plateau, and then you steadily rise. I don't know if that applies to comedy. So Joe Rogan likes comedy, and they say that he's not funny. No, he is a comedian. Maybe what he does is not for you. But talking to people so much for so long, he became better at that than stand-up, probably, right? Maybe he's going to get funnier now that he has a comedy club that's his own place. Maybe he's becoming isolated in a bubble world. What the hell why am I talking to you about it? I'd like to talk about comedy. But everybody shits on Rogan, and, I see those videos, and, they don't like, whoever your top comedians are, the channels I know about don't like those guys. Again, to reiterate, I don't have an algorithm, but it's like there's comedians that I don't like that are considered the top guys, and they're in the top 100 of comedy podcasts, and, like in the mix, and I never like to kill Tony or any of that stuff, but some people do, and, if you can have too much of everything you want, you're just going to get sick of it. It's like I can have ice cream every day. Even if you really love ice cream, you're going to have enough ice cream and say, okay, I don't need ice cream for a while. And then you'll come back to the flavors that you love. Or maybe your taste will change. Or maybe you'll ruin your sensibilities for ice cream. And you can kind of apply that to comedy. I don't think the need to laugh as a pressure release valve is going to go away. But there's only so much that the comedians can offer, telling you every disgusting detail of their life until they've told you all the pertinent points, big moments, and they either have to make more and continue in their degeneracy, or you're going to have heard it all and decide whether or not you're along for the ride when they come down from or when you come down from them being high and all the disgusting stuff that they did, drunk or high. And no matter what, everybody ages. You can age out of the things that you like listening to, as well as you can age out of doing the things that people like listening to you for that you do. And again, like peaks and valleys. So comedians getting involved in politics, yeah, if you want to. Can you still be funny after that? Yeah, probably. I've seen thumbnails, if I haven't watched the videos, of comedians taking shit for getting involved in politics, like Andrew Schultz, who I don't even like. I don't think he's funny, and Theo Von, who I don't know really anything about, and Mark Maron had Obama on, and Joe Rogan had Trump on. I'm like, yeah, you can do that, but the problem that people have is, well, one, Mark Maron openly was okay with supporting Obama because he does. Joe Rogan, I would say there's more respect, and I'm not, I could trash Joe Rogan and make fun of him and everything like everybody else does, but at least he's like, yeah, I don't agree with that. Like, Mark Maron and Obama, he would still tell you that he loves them. So it's like, most people are a mixed bag. I mean, if you had the guy who became president on, and then later you're like, well, I didn't agree to that. What's wrong with that? Like, I don't even like Andrew Schultz, but him saying he didn't agree with how Trump is now, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do. Isn't that kind of a more respectable thing? Yeah, I supported this guy. I feel used. I helped him become president, and it turns out he's just plowing through with the agenda of the last guy. Only we're supposed to love him for it because he has funny tweets or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I just, sometimes I like to talk about the comedy stuff. I still like to laugh, and I do laugh all the time, but it's not from any comedians. It's people who make online content that are funny, whether it's funny TikToks or whether it's funny and it's not supposed to be funny. I'll laugh at some of the things that people really believe that are like sort of ignorant opinions, or like, oh honey, you don't know what you're talking about, and it's adorable, but it's also can be terrifying because they really have these horrible opinions. But nobody's really funny. Nobody that they tell us is funny. I remember George Carlin did this, probably was in his last special before he died. He said, I don't like who they tell me to like. And that's how he opened his show. They tell me to like this guy and I don't like him. And I like that bit, and a lot of people are down on George Carlin, like, I don't like his opinions and stuff. It doesn't matter if you think George Carlin is funny. There's a lot of stuff that he said is truthful, and a lot of comedians stole bits that he did and made them their own bits. And he did have a huge influence on comedians, and George Carlin didn't even have a podcast. He died before that. Would he have had? Probably not. Who cares? But the point is, I don't know, what's the point? I just wanted to talk about comedy. I laugh at stuff all the time. It's like, it's podcasters that aren't comedians saying things that are funny. $1 Million Extreme, they're like a comedy troupe, is what they are. I laugh at some of their stuff. That Nick Roquefort, he would fit right in with Legion of Skanks. Is Sam and Friends part of some kind of weird club of, like secret society clubs or something? Maybe Sam's a Fed because he got into trouble when he was doing the Cartoon Network show. Maybe Charles Carroll is Oddfellow that worships Belican because he's obsessed with mirth, which is the thing of the Oddfellows, which is an occult organization that has a pretty bad rap sheet criminally and crimes against children and women, and it's the same crime against children and women. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter. Some of their stuff's funny. I would say funnier than the stand-up comedian guys. But I don't like them either. But, Sam Hyde and Friends, I think, is more Sam and his friends sitting down for a PGL podcast. I don't like Sam Hyde, but it doesn't matter. It's still better than Joe Rogan sitting around talking about stuff. Is Sam Hyde a Marxist? He might be, even if he doesn't realize it. He's hanging out with Peter Thiel. So is Joe Rogan. Peter Thiel, his name is a perfect anagram for the reptile. Does that mean anything? That's the Palantir guy, if you don't know who Peter Thiel is. Probably a bad guy. Joe Rogan hanging out with Elon Musk, who's like a figurehead. You know that Elon Musk isn't really the richest guy in the world, right? The richest people in the world aren't in the Forbes 500 list. But I just want to talk about comedy. And we do need to laugh. I think God probably has the best sense of humor since he invented it. It is possible, I think, to do comedy while pointing out truths and foibles and still edify. I don't know anybody who does that. A lot of comedy is just mean. I think Mark Maron was the guy I heard call comedy socially acceptable anger. I think that was in his Thinky Pain special. I think Mark Maron's funny. Is he funnier than Joe Rogan? It's not a contest. They do two different things. Do I want to see Joe Rogan's Burning the Bridge special, whatever? No, I don't care about that. But I did watch people trashing it, saying it wasn't funny. Is every special going to be the best? I don't know. Look at the careers of dead comedians and their specials, or whoever's been around for a long time. It's an ebb and flow. There's high points and there's low points. Louis C.K. did Delirious, and that was a high moment special. And then he got exposed for harassing women, which is probably a good thing before he went any further. I mean, think if Louis C.K. had gotten away with it, he just would have kept upping the stakes as some kind of weird sexual predator. So even he himself probably thinks, well, it's a good thing I got in trouble for that, because if it would have kept going on and he would have going higher, he would have become some kind of monster, right? So, it starts out with asking people if you can beat off in front of them, and then it just gets, it's probably, where are you going to go? You can only go down, and you know what I mean? It's not a good thing. But I don't know, like we need to laugh, and where I get my laughs from, it's just people that make funny videos on YouTube, or anybody that's on another social media platform that puts their content on YouTube. Everybody's become kind of a wit because of having the phone in our hands, the internet in our hands in the form of the phone. As soon as you have a funny thought, you can share it with a lot of people, and if they like it, you're encouraged, because people want to be liked. It's a natural thing. People want, some form of community, even if it's in a convoluted, disconnected way that we interact with each other online. People want to be liked. So if you say something that's funny, you're becoming a wit. You're developing your comedy sensibilities, and we need it because of how the world, like sometimes, like if something's out of your hands and it's bigger than you, the only thing we can do is laugh about it and mock it. That's all we have. But it's also the ability to laugh at something and mock it that kind of lessens what might be a need for us to do something about it, to stop it, where you just let it roll off your back and let them keep raping the land and the people and everything. And at some point it's not funny anymore, and well, inevitably and unenviably, you don't get to laugh about it anymore. That's communism, socialism, Marxism. In effect, you're not allowed to laugh about it because you'll be executed, like in Saudi Arabia, would have a king where you say something that they don't think is funny and you're getting killed. Don't kill the messenger is the old phrase. Why do they say that? Because a leader a king or a queen would be brought bad news, and then they would have the person executed that was the bearer of bad news, or the jester that said something. that whoever was the ruler didn't like, and then they would kill them. Somebody spoke out about the injustice in the land, and then they were like, kill him. Oh, you laughed at that? Kill him too. We're headed towards that. I mean, it's one thing to be able to laugh because we need to. It's a pressure relief valve. It's also an involuntary thing. So, and it also gets, in the past, used to get people killed, and I think we're headed that way again. Look what's happening in the UK for people speaking out or being funny. They're getting locked up. In Canada too, but Canada's attached to UK. So, like saying an off-color remark, I mean, that is a freedom. Comedians getting canceled with the cancel culture, like from 2016 onward, and then fighting against the cancel culture. Probably we're going right back to, you can't say that shit again, because if you do, we're gonna get you and lock you up. I mean, look how they did in the UK. They just plowed right over the people. People are getting locked up because they know that Jesus is God. That's not even comedy anymore. It's just about free speech. We still have free speech in America. Use it. But does that mean that it's funny just because somebody says, N-word and makes fun of sexual proclivities and stuff? That's all part of a soup. You should be able to talk about those things. Racism can be funny, and nobody's immune from it. You can't say, well, this is the color of my skin, and because of my oppression, you can't make jokes about me, but we can talk about you. No. Everybody's a target, no matter, you know what I mean? Like, it used to be socially acceptable to, right wing, left wing. It's the same bird, and that bird is a turkey vulture. The illusion of choice. Okay, but there still was that pressure release valve of, we can say whatever we want and get away with it. You can see that being dialed back, and it's all. And why are we allowed to say things that in other countries they're not? Because it's part of a divide and conquer strategy. Say things divisive and to be mean and criticize others who can't take it. Like, you can't make, like, Indians have festivals where they throw poop around and they eat poop and they eat dung and all that stuff, but they don't like it when you make fun of them for it. And they're exporting. India is the most densely populated country in the world. People, they're exporting India all over the world. They're like, go live someplace else. And and they leave India to get a hand up, to get a better life in another country. But instead of being grateful to the new country that they're in, what's happening for some people is saying how they love India. It's like, okay, well, stay there then. And they're like, no, or it's like coming to America and to get a better life, and then raising the Haitian flag and turning America into Haiti. I don't know, are we still talking about comedy? Yeah, because, like having to, like, it just, well, communism, socialism, Marxism doesn't have room for comedy. You're not supposed to be funny. Comedy, in terms of communism, socialism, Marxism, which is all the same thing, it's not about comedy. It's about an attack. You can attack these people as long as you're part of the agenda to ultimately take away comedy. And then nothing's funny, and you're not allowed to be funny. And if you laugh at it, which, again, I said laughing is an involuntary thing, you're not expecting to do it. Laughing at something you're not supposed to laugh at could get you locked up. Do you remember the old movie Invasions of the Body Snatchers, where they had a dog with a human face, and the people would see the dog with a human face and they freaked out? They knew it was an involuntary response, the shock of seeing a dog with a human face on it. It's an involuntary response, not unlike comedy. Oh, you laughed at that? Lock them up. You're not allowed to laugh at that. Oh, you're surprised by a dog with a human face on it? You're not one of us. You're not one of the pod people. Get them. And what was Invasion of the Body Snatchers about? It was about communism. It was about having our humanity stripped away and being forced to live in an authoritarian regime where you have no rights, no freedoms. It's 1984. It's Brave New World. Like 1984, it's very transparent. George Orwell's 1984, as if you didn't know. It's transparent where it sucks to live there and you're not allowed to do anything. And just like with, Democratic and politics in America, whether it's Republican or Democrat, it's the, where was I going with this? They always lie right to your face. The ministry of truth speaks lies. The ministry of love spews hate. The ministry of peace creates war. That's all real. We already have that. That's how they operate. Oh, what do you want? We'll tell you you're going to get that. Campaign promises and lies, and then you can't have it. And they do the exact opposite. Oh, what do you want? Okay, you can have it. Okay, well, you can't have it. We're going to give you the opposite of that, is what you'll find. And whoever you vote for, they just plow through with the agenda of whoever was before them, no matter whether they were conservative or liberal. Does that mean all our leaders and all people in positions of authority are evil globally? I used to say yes. My answer to that now is no, because a lot of people get killed for trying to do the right thing. Sometimes leaders of countries. And you can look into that when you look through world history. Some people want to do the right thing, and then people that are evil are like, no, we'll kill them, and then we'll put our puppet in its place, because this guy doesn't want to be our puppet anymore. Get rid of him. A lot of people attribute that to what happened to Charlie when he was the Shabbat sacrifice in the neck, and they cut his throat. Remember that? So, yeah, I mean, comedy is really super important, but anyone who's one of the top comedians that everybody knows about is approved of already, so there's limitations on what they can say. They're not really speaking truths and freedom, and people who do, you or I might not know who those truth speakers who are funny are. Unless you can find their content. You're like, maybe there's somebody you watch and they're way funnier than anybody on the top Comedy 100 podcast list, or funnier than anybody that has a Netflix special. Yeah, but they're, like the people who are on Netflix are told what they can and cannot do because sponsors. Oh, well, we have so-and-so sponsors this, or Netflix sponsors my special, or you can't say these things, you can say these things. Is it really that much different than the Riyadh Comedy Festival just because it's in Saudi Arabia? Well, it's a little bit different. It's very transparent with Saudi Arabia, which is actually more honest. You want to come here? You can't say these things because the king said so. It's more deceptive with Netflix, but it's the same thing. So is that giving some slack to the people like Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr who went to Riyadh and are defending it? Well, no, because of how they presented themselves as comedians to their fellow Americans. It is like a betrayal. So, it's okay to give them shit about it because they're giving you shit about it if you don't like what they did and they want to defend it, and then you call them out on it. That's freedom. I'm glad we still have it, but it's also part of a divide and conquer strategy. You guys fight about shit that doesn't matter. Meanwhile, BlackRock's buying up everything. And are there any of your top 100 podcast comedians with Netflix specials talking about take these BlackRock guys and tie them to the piers for high tide, but upside down? No, they would never. They know better. They know that's like more their crowd than yours or mine, so they know they can't say shit like that. Not that they should, because the umbrella corporation of Resident Evil is BlackRock, Blackstone, Vanguard, and they're not alone. And it's corporations, the evil corporations, yeah, and the politicians are puppets. and and everything Israel and all that stuff if we attack it. They just want us fighting each other. One of the things I used to say in my videos all the time, which doesn't have much to do with comedy, but it is, I guess related to this, is that if you wanted relative peace on earth for all mankind before God's return, his final return, when there's no more tears, what it would look like is you need an example of who to be and who to find for peace on earth for all mankind. You need an example of how to be a man. You need an example of how to be a woman, so that you know who to be and who to find when you grow up, so families can stay together. The devil hates families. It was an Aleister Crowley poem, Enemy Number One, the family. And it was Crowley kissing the butt of the devil and saying that he hated families because he knows the devil hates families. And if you want communism, Marxism, socialism, your children don't belong to you, they belong to the state, which probably it happens already with social security numbers and being born into a hospital, having a stranger bring you out of the womb into the world and you never see that guy again. A masked, faceless stranger with rubber gloves. And then you have to, spend 3 days in a hospital being separated and isolated from your mom while a stranger feeds you. Nurses and stuff like that in an incubator. That's being born into a system. That doesn't have anything to do with, a mother and a father bringing a child into the world and the crown of God placed over the three of them kind of thing. Whatever you believe. But look at the breakdown of society. It is about destroying the family, removing, one of the vital members. You need an example of who to be and who to find. You live with your mom, you live with your dad. You need them both. People don't stay together anymore. So we need to laugh about it, but, well, I don't know. That's just where this video went. It's divide and conquer strategy at the most basic level. Tell men and women not to trust each other, don't stay together anymore, and inspire communist antinatalism, and you can believe whatever you want just as long as it's nothing that supports family staying together. I mean, Muslims believe in family. It's very important to them before God, the way that they see God. And if you're a Muslim in communist China's very transparent about it. The Muslim families are brought into China, and then the first thing they do is remove the family, and they bring a soldier in to take the place of the father. It's just a more transparent version of welfare system in America. Just get the dad out of here. Incentivize for the woman to say that the state will be the father of the children. And look at the damage it's done. And look at all the funny comedy bits that come about single moms blowing everybody and dads' lives going to shit because they're not allowed to or don't want to see their kids anymore. That's how you make a world not funny anymore. You break up the family. If you have a nation that's all made up of families, men and women that love each other, they will weed out the people who are trying to destroy that, and those actual physical human beings will be removed or tied to the piers for high tide, whatever the people of the nation decide to do to those people, it will be done. Oh, we don't want your power or authority. But if you divide and conquer everybody and separate all the people, then there's nobody to fight against the people destroying the country, shaping it into whatever they want, and use Hegelian dialectics to create problems and say, oh, you want us to fix the problem? You guys can't agree on how to fix it? Here's a solution we're offering you. And it's what the people with the money, means, and power wanted, to keep everybody divided, to dumb down the country. You hear about all the stuff about Gen Alpha can't read, and the teachers don't know what to do. That's a plan. Make people stupid so that they can't be in charge of anything. Dumb a generation down, the up and coming generation, so that these scared, stupid people will do whatever we tell them to do. And that's how you bring about smart cities with no windows, so you can't jump out of the buildings, because people are going to want to jump out of the windows for what they realize part of their soul has been given. They've given up part of their soul for the smart city and have universal basic income. Man grows by his toil, and if he's not toiling in some way, look at history. All throughout the past, people didn't have money and they still had families. And, before we were degraded by the changes in the world and, corruption of hybridization and genetically modifying foods and stuff, two people with no money would have like double digits of children. And they've started removing, I know this was about comedy originally, they've started removing all the old photographs that used to show you how when everybody was poor and they had less than we had now, and we had like less developed technology and horse and buggy were pulling shit around, and people had double digits of kids. Two people that stayed together lifelong without hospitals had double digits of kids, and now women, the infertility rates in America are like super high, and it's the same with all the rest of the westernized, industrial westernized world. That's how you control people. It's sad. I don't know what this has to do with comedy anymore, but we have to be able to laugh about it and to mock these people. And, anything that you're not allowed to say, pay attention to that. Anything that gets somebody locked up, pay attention to what they said that got them locked up. There's a truth in that they don't want you to think about or talk about, because it's an involuntary thing. You're not expecting to hear something and then you laugh about it. Maybe there's a deeper truth behind the thing that provokes involuntary laughter, and they don't want any spontaneity. They want a society of automatons. 1984, it's transparent to you that it sucks to live there. And but in Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, people love the Brave New World. All their things are offered to them, except that two people can't love each other and stay together unless you're, alpha double plus. Everyone belongs to everyone else, and it's just like this is the happy version of communism, Marxism, socialism. How does Huxley's Brave New World end? Where John the Savage hangs himself, and Lenina and the clones don't know what to do, so they fall down into an orgy-porgy dog pile beneath his dead hanging body. So they have an orgy. That's the end. That's the end. That's transhumanism, a term coined by Julian Huxley. That's Aldous Huxley's brother. The Huxley brothers are evil, right? So transhumanism, trans means crossing over from being human into something else, whatever it is they want to shape us into. A divided and conquered, not human anymore, crossing over from being human into whatever it is they say that we could be. Not whatever you want to be, whatever they want you to be. Who's they? The wealthy elite whose fortune shaped the fates of nations, who have everything whispered into their ears by demons. Don't you love stand-up comedy? Do you like my funny video? Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell. There's value in laughing. You're just going to have to find out what makes you laugh. And maybe, you don't want to get your news from Jon Stewart's The Daily Show. Does anybody give a shit about that anymore? Jon Stewart's back. Wasn't his brother like a lobbyist for the Democrats or something? Yeah, that's not funny. You want to watch Joe Rogan, watch him, but it's part of a divide and conquer, getting all the comedians to fight with each other. You've heard comedians say this, and I'm not a comedian, but I've said the same thing, is you used to be able to laugh at whether they were liberal leaning or conservative leaning. It didn't matter, because you could have both, and you could laugh at we could laugh at ourselves, we could laugh at other people, we could laugh at each other. No, now they want us to be divided and conquered, and even within comedy, which used to be, I guess you could say, a bastion of freedom, if I want to, get overblown about it. Getting people in comedy to pick sides and fight about it isn't anything new, but the way that it's being done now, it's just about destroying the other person And it's part of that divide and conquer strategy that leads to us not being able to laugh about stuff except for, ow, I hurt my balls. Remember the Idiocracy movie where that was comedy in the future? People just stay home and masturbate and get degraded. They'll probably take that away too. Probably get locked up for beating your meat or flicking your bean or whatever. But there's something, we can do about it now. I mean, it's just divide and conquer at its most basic level of strategies that's being pitted against us. Having people make content to say that men and women can't and shouldn't trust each other anymore, and that everyone's so corrupted. It's the most basic thing. Everybody wants somebody to love. They want at least one person that they can trust and to build a lifetime with them. And they want to do everything that they can to make sure that they could discourage you from that. Like BlackRock, Larry Fink said, in the future you'll own nothing and you'll love it. And like that other asshole said, you will eat the bugs. And at BlackRock, this is Larry Fink again, at BlackRock we believe in forcing behaviors. So we're just going to keep forcing behaviors, and we're going to encourage everybody else that we're able to manipulate, that we force these behaviors. It doesn't matter what you want or what you like. Whatever the culture is, we want to destroy it because we want to shape the next generation to whatever we want. And it's stupid bug people who just do whatever we say. And on the authorship for New World Order a long time ago, before double digits in the 2000s, I saw that website and it said the New World Order will have a series of small-scale conflicts at all levels at all times. We're living in that now. The series of small-scale conflicts isn't just online on social media platforms fighting with each other. It's the wars and conflicts all over the place, and it's the wars and conflicts going on inside our own minds, fighting about who we could be, whether it's a fantasy thing, people retreating into social media addictions, and the actual chemical drug fixes we get from dopamine, cortisol, going back and forth. Like, we're getting regulated by drugs in our minds. Forget about gas station vapes and CBD and Delta 8 and all that stuff. Government weed and meth and all these other things that people can have. We're actually changing the they are changing the chemicals and giving us drug highs inside ourselves just by the content we watch. And the content we watch is purposefully divisive, and we, the common people, have fallen into helping support that effort by getting us to fight each other. What's God's two most important commandments? Love God above all else. And what's the second most important commandment? Love your neighbor as yourself. This is the commandment of God. We're supposed to be loving each other. How can we love each other if we don't love God first? He teaches us how to love. It's the most important relationship you're ever going to have. We have direct access, a direct line to the creator and maker of all things, and we can ask him for help, and we can ask him to teach us. And the Bible helps. We should be utilizing the technology of prayer. It's the most advanced technology that we're ever going to have down here. And if you look into the wealthy elite whose fortune shaped the fates of nations and plans for globalization, that's the one thing that has to be removed. They don't want you calling to God and asking for help. They don't want you going through the mediator between you and God, which in a way is God, the only begotten Son of the maker of all things. Jesus said, if you want to pray to God and you want to get his attention, you got to go through me. All right? And he was also our example. He did not sin. We sin. We know we'll never be as good as Jesus. But the question we should be asking ourselves is, what would Jesus do? And what did he do while he was down here? Why is he so important? Why should he be so important to us? He understood about love. And we need to understand, and to understand by Black's Law definition, if you know what that means, and if you don't, I'm going to keep going. Understand means to stand under. This is how they speak in court, and this is in Jubilee editions of a legal dictionary that lawyers use. So there are legalistic ways of demons. God set up rules for us to live by, and he commanded that we love him above all else so that he can teach us how to love our neighbor as ourselves. And we are commanded these top 2 commandments. And Jesus told us we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. That's really important. That's from God. That's from the top down. And we can't let go of that. It's okay to laugh and make fun of each other and point out each other's foibles and hideous evils of the world in a funny way. But we do have to love each other. It's a commandment. And if you don't know how to do that, we have to learn. And you can see me changing and adjusting to how I pray to God that He would mold and shape me, and using my own free will to try and learn how to do that. Highly valuable. I don't know, is there really any thoughtful, loving, poignant comedians, or is it just socially acceptable anger? Because we need that. We need somebody who gives us the comedy, who tells us the truth in a funny way and does it with love. And I can't think of one comedian that does that. Am I saying that all your top popular comedians with Netflix specials don't have love in their hearts? No, they do. It's in there by design, but most people are a mixed bag. If you know who a comedian is that's funny and thoughtful and loving and honest and truthful, that guy's a threat to society as it is. That guy's a threat to where they want to head us in the future. Voices like that are lights those are lamps on a lampstand. What we're called to be. We're called to be saints. Say what you will about the saints that we're told are saints. God gave us humor for a reason, and we're supposed to use it. It can inform us, and to not take ourselves so seriously when we're talking about very serious things that do matter. We need to laugh. Like, this is, if there's anything that God wants us to get from humor and comedy, it's to be able to laugh and to not, it's an equalizer. When somebody calls you on your shit and then you can laugh about it because it's true, even though it's a bad thing, you're like, I know, I gotta change that. Or even if it's a horrible, evil thing said in a funny way, it lightens the blow of hearing something that you wouldn't want to hear, and then you laugh about it and you say, that's funny, but then you're like, you know what, that's awful though, that's true. Yes. Maybe through comedy there are ways to understand things about God. But I can't think of anybody who does that. Maybe somebody who's telling us things about God has a funny way about him. I can't think of anybody like that. It's just something that we do. We interject humor into serious things, whether you want to call yourself a comedian or not. But I don't know. I thank you for coming along with me on this ride of this video, this specific video. I think, the further along we got into something that actually matters. And I didn't know that I was going there. But, the comedy, or humor rather, I would say, is an important thing. And we need to find ways to be funny and truthful and edifying and loving. Like, we somehow have to have comedy with love in it, and we've lost that. Not all comedy has to be speaking about issues of the day, but we have so many issues today, and they're trying to take comedy away. It makes sense that comedy would get political. Kind of needs to be. It also needs to be loving, and I guess I could say religious. It's does anybody agree? Does anybody disagree that if you don't have love in your heart, you have nothing? That's one of the things that was put in us by design by God. Like, it's one of His qualities. It's His most dominant quality. God is love. God's love permeates all things. You can face it. You can't take it all. You can face it or you can turn away from it. It's free will choice given by God. How do you do comedy with love? They've just got us fighting each other. There's a question. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell. And double ring the bell and all the things that you can do, because my channel is hideously censored. Can you tell me why? I don't know. Maybe I'm on to something. Pay attention to who gets shadow banned and why. Is my content vulgar and disgusting, or am I trying to tell you something of God that might be useful to your life, that would fight against the powers that be in an individual basis that we all have? What do I say most often on my videos? Pray to God. I'm saying it again. Pray to God. Amen to that.